Today on Around Kansas, we get to see what crafty project Deb's daughter Noel has been up to. Next, Dave Kendall is back with the story of Fort Larned. On the Front Porch, our guest is Kevin Larson. Ron Wilson has another poem, and we end with a sneak peek of Brennah Wahweotten's dancing in the streets of Mayetta for her virtual Powwow contest submission.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Good morning. Welcome to Around Kansas. I'm Deb Goodrich. It's great to have you with me. I don't know if fall approaching puts the rest of you in craft mood, but it sure does for me and my daughter Noel, and I've just got to share her latest craft project because it is so stinking cute. Of course, when you have adorable grandchildren, you can put them in anything. But she took one of those little tight cars and painted it like a pumpkin. It is so cute. And so little Micaiah with his overalls and his little green leprechaun hat, just a little man with a green hat driving a pumpkin. Oh, so adorable. And she had looked up all these ideas on Pinterest about how to decorate these little cars. And when she told me she was going to paint it, I'm like, it's fine the way it is. Why bother? But once she did, I had to agree that it was a really, really great idea. Well, you know, guys, that I love going through antique stores and thrift stores, and I love old stuff. So I love maybe old newspapers and magazines more than anything. And this is the cover of Life magazine on April 11th, 1969. See, there is the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, D.C., and there is obviously a casket in the middle. This was the funeral of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And some of you, like myself, are old enough to recall that day. And, of course, this is Ike coming home to Abilene for the final time. What a treasure. I was so tickled to find this. And I remember that the day he died, I was a kid. Yes, I was a kid. And we were driving through Winston-Salem, North Carolina, on the way home from visiting friends when the news came on the radio that President Eisenhower had died. And my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, Grandpa Bowman, had served under Ike at Gettysburg. And lest you think I have my wars confused, it was World War I. When Ike was the commander of Camp Colt at Gettysburg. And my grandfather was a coal miner, so he had a medical discharge for lung issues, and Ike signed his discharge. He had to go in and meet with him to get him to sign the discharge. So he always had a special place in Grandpa's heart and ours, even though I wasn't a Kansan at the time. I still had a special place in my heart for Ike. So if you come across some of these little treasures, let me know. Share them with us on Facebook. And again, another shout out to Roger Ringer for the photo of the sisters, the tornadoes, for our Ghost Riders in the Sky. That was so much fun. And share your fall pictures with us, because we're talking about doing some other kind of photo contest for fall. And yes, for his participation in our, gosh, I can't move anything here without everything falling down. Michelle said that we should do a segment on how we prepare. Let me tell you how I clean the living room. Everything gets tossed somewhere else. But Roger is going to get a copy of my Civil War in Kansas. Congrats, Roger. So, like I said, share your pictures, watch for future contests, and stay with us today because we have a fantastic program coming up.
In 1821, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for that grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but yet we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at Corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, we'll be glad to answer it and work with you.
This segment brought to you by the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center in Oakley.
On our continuing adventures along the Santa Fe Trail, Dave Kendall has a very special segment visiting Fort Larned and our friend George Elmore. Thank you so much, Dave, for sharing these with us. And visit santafetrail.org or santafetrail200.org to find some of the places and people you want to see.
Welcome to Fort Larned National Historic Site. Fort Larned is a unit of the National Park System. It was created by Congress to establish a place where you could talk about and commemorate the role of the military on the Santa Fe Trail.
The Chief Ranger for the National Park Service at Fort Larned, George Elmore, has been telling the fort story for many years, educating the public about the role of the military on the trail.
The military activity on the trail, Mexican War is when it really increased a lot, because you have all the forts being established. You have goods that have to go up and down the trail to, take care of the troops in the field. And so that's when the Plains Indians really started fighting back in earnest. And by the time of 1859, when Fort Larned is established, they're pretty riled up by a lot of the activities that's going up and down. You also have the gold rushes out into Colorado. And so the Indians, just like we would if somebody was crossing our ground, all of a sudden we're starting to fight back in earnest against people just constantly going up and down on the trail.
Fort Larned was never attacked by Indians, but many of them did find themselves at the fort to collect on payments from the government called annuities, provided in accordance with treaties that were negotiated with the tribes.
There was a lot of cultural exchange at Fort Larned with the Plains Indians. They would come in, trade at the Post Sutler store. This was location of the Indian annuities under the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so we had the Indian agents actually assigned here that would distribute annuities to the Plains tribes. We had some beautiful accounts of some of the various Indian leaders and the talks that they had here. One of them complained that you're cutting down all of our trees. You're scaring away all of our animals. You know, we look at the fort today and we see a lot of trees. But back then, wood was used to cook, to heat the buildings and everything. Travelers on the trail cut down trees and consumed them for firewood. They were complaining about it. The Indians were complaining about, you're scaring off our animals. You're chasing away the buffalo. You're chasing away all the deer, everything else that's out here. And the military really didn't care a whole lot about that because of the fact it makes people more dependent on the annuities if you destroy the grocery store.
In his role as a ranger here, George Elmore finds himself continually clearing up common misconceptions that people share with him.
Now, most people think that every caravan that went down the Santa Fe Trail got an armed escort. That's not true. In 1864, the military actually was ordered to hold up caravans here until they had about 40 armed men in his group, so they could go down as a group and have safety in the numbers of the group. That didn't really work too well because if you're an entrepreneur trying to get to Santa Fe with your goods to make the top dollar, you want to beat the other people there. So people didn't want to have to wait up and travel down in a group. So they would just go right on down if they could, not be held up. But the military really did not escort caravans up and down the trail. It's guarding the trail, yes, but it's more like a highway patrolman going out, looking for Indian locations, making sure everything's okay, but not really going with you. Now the mail coaches going up and down the trail, normally they had to guard those and usually have an armed escort of about 20 to 30 men with every mail coach going down the trail. Actually, the first death here was one of the stagecoach drivers delivering mail. He was killed, and then the military came out to kind of help guard the mail coaches, and then throughout most of Fort Larned's history, guarding the coaches was the primary role of the U.S. Army here.
Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people, just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun. Highways 40, 83, and I-70 come together right here in Oakley. Roads that lead to businesses, to magnificent rock formations, to scenic vistas, to places where legends were made. Roads that lead us home. Discover Oakley, the gateway to Western Kansas.
ValleyVet.com is your one-stop shop for your every animal need. From prescription meds, vaccines, equipment, and more for the ranch to the show ring. Shop ValleyVet.com for fast shipping and great prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Bob Schwartz Financial. Values, commitment, transparency.
I'm Jamie Bloom, and today I'm visiting with historian Kevin Larson, who is an expert on the history of the Blue Valley, and especially the history of the fight against the building of the Tuttle Creek Dam that took place in the 1950s.
1955, the funding started again And so things started up again. So everything had been put at a standstill. There were fences put up around what had been done at Tuttle Creek. The offices were boarded up and everything, and it looked like it was going to be to an end. And in that time period, the Blue Valley did raise money to make a film called The Tuttle Creek Story, and a lot of you have probably seen that movie, but it was an effort to try to tell people that, there's no need to build big dams. We can have small retaining dams, and they would have the same effect. You wouldn't have to destroy beautiful valleys, because eventually the valleys are going to get silted in, and they're going to be, their effectiveness won't be as good as it would have been.
Right.
But anyway, so the funding came in. So the Blue Valley people were discouraged, of course, but they decided that, maybe we could build public opinion for our site if we would just open our valley, let the people come in, walk through our churches, go through our homes, see what's going on. So in October of 55, they had an open house for a weekend, and they just invited people to come. And
did they have a good turnout for that?
Well, and I think they said they had around 6,000 people come out to view everything that was going on. And they had a guest book at the VFW building in Randolph. So there was people you could see from all over the country that had come in to view the valley. And they had set up different tours that you could take. If you didn't want to drive it yourself, they had people who would drive you around in their cars. You could take an airplane flight up over the valley and see the valley from Manhattan to Blue Rapids. And they put out a big broadside that had all the historical sites that were there and what would be lost if the dam went in. So it was a great effort to try to do that, and they started to build up hope. So they hoped that by 1956 that they could run Howard Miller for Congress again, and if he could win, then maybe they could go through and stop this whole thing. So by 1956, quite a campaign to get Howard Miller back into the Congress, and that was a time that a group of us, myself included, went down to Topeka. We walked Kansas Avenue with placards saying to vote for Howard S. Miller, but in the end he lost. And after that defeat, it became pretty apparent that it wasn't going to have any success to stop it. So after that, it kind of became sort of okay, we're in this thing, what can we do? What can we get the best out of it? So by 1957, the work on the dam had pretty well progressed up to like Stockdale and on up into Garrison. So they were acquiring the land, tearing the buildings down, etc. The town of Randolph was more like in late 1960, early 1961, and that they acquired the land and started, tearing everything down to prepare for it. So it was quite...
What could individuals on farmsteads do, Kevin, if that, were there people that just flat refused to leave?
Well, they, basically most of them realized. The only one who really who became quite famous for his refusal was a man by the name of Ort Weber, and he was one who was not going to give in. And of course, stories abound. Stories being told that when the appraisers would try to come on his land, he would come with a shotgun and make sure they didn't come on and stuff like that. But basically everybody, they can take it as long as they say they give you a fair market value. So a lot of people would not accept the first offer that they were given. They would take them to court and try to have a judge see that the land was worth more than what they were offering. And a lot of times they did get more, but a lot of them said, whatever we got extra pretty well went to pay for the lawyer fee that we were charged and stuff. But it was a lot of great remorse because there were families in the Blue River Valley that were the fourth generation living on that land, and it was very hard to give up that land and because they built up these beautiful homes, the land, and etc. And it was just hard to walk away from it. I always said from personal experience of knowing the people that went through that some people I knew really literally almost died twice. They died when they finally had to give up their home and move out of the valley, and then they had to go on and physically die. It was just a very devastating happening for them to see their churches, everything just be able to be done away with and torn down.
I'm Bob Swartz, and I've devoted the last 43 years to helping Kansans reach their retirement goals and to protect the family farm. At Bob Swartz Financial, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always dreamed of. Our team of professionals can help you create an efficient strategy using a variety of investment vehicles to help you address your financial needs and your concerns. Bob Swartz Financial, values, commitment, and transparency.
At Farm Credit, we partner with America's farmers who work hard each and every day to grow the food that we all enjoy. It's not an easy task, but it's an important one. Farm Credit is proud to work with farmers and ranchers, lending support in rural America.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Let us help feed your family.
My wife and family and I live on the Lazy T Ranch near Manhattan, Kansas. We run cattle and horses and some other animals. If you have livestock in the hot summer heat, then you're going to have flies, and we contend with flies. This poem I wrote is called Fly Right. 3 cowboys from different places came into a Texas saloon for a drink to relieve their hot afternoon. The flies were buzzing from near and from far as the 3 cowboys took their place at the bar. Each ordered a drink as they had planned, but into each drink a fly did land. The first cowboy turned green at the bug in his drink. To the bartender he said, "I'll have a different one, I think." The second cowboy stopped, slowly fished out the bug, and finally drank the beer with a shrug. But the third cowboy was from Kansas, where times were tough, and he wasn't about to put up with this stuff. He knew this behavior just had to stop, 'cause he came from Kansas, where we don't waste a drop. So the cowboy grabbed the bug and with a big shout, held it over the glass and said, "Now you spit that out." Happy trip.
In 1821, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
COVID-19 has restricted a lot of events, of course, including powwows. Brennah Wahweotten has shared this beautiful, beautiful video that her dad, Tony, took of her dancing in the streets of Mayetta, and this was for the Cherokee National Holiday powwow that was being held virtually. This will make your day. There's a word when art takes on a life of itself, and it's meant for song or dance or the spoken word, and it's called duende. And I have to say that Brennah has achieved duende with this beautiful performance. Thanks for allowing me to come into your home every week. Really appreciate it. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
I'm Bob Swartz, and I've devoted the last 43 years to helping Kansans reach their retirement goals and to protect the family farm. At Bob Swartz Financial, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always dreamed of. Our team of professionals can help you create an efficient strategy using a variety of investment vehicles to help you address your financial needs and your concerns. Bob Swartz Financial values commitment and transparency.